I'll tell you what. We'll get to this list now. Do you have the list available?
I got like
Lucas?
just a graphic with Ben Johnson.
Yeah, that's fine. You can throw it up. We'll react to it. So Ben Johnson, first year OC last year with the Lions, #1 ranked offensive coordinator in the NFL, according to PFF, and rightfully so. I mean, come on, guys. Ben Johnson, you look at the situation he was in compared to anybody else. I remember I was on a run last year making just some reels for just some of my personal channels, Jeff and Gentry, just talking about Ben Johnson and why I believe he should have won. I forgot the award name specifically, but it's basically just Assistant of the Year. And I don't know if I'm not mistaken, it went to Shane Steichen or D'Amico Ryans. Forgot who it was, but regardless, I think it should have been Ben Johnson because of the situation he has to work with. You look at the talent he was given, right? What he did for Khalif. Josh Reynolds was always pretty solid, but what he did for, players that you didn't expect to play well, the tight end group that the Lions have combined for 12 touchdowns. Zane Zylstra went for 3 in a game. Like the things he did for a lot of the skill position players and for Jared specifically, I think Ben deserves all the credit in the world, and he's now ranked #1 in the NFL for OCs. And this isn't surprising, Sam. Ben Johnson, his departure, it's not a matter of if, it's when. I think after this season, there's going to be a team that brings him in immediately. He got some interviews last year, got some experience. It was the best of both worlds. He got to interview, and then he got to return to the Lions. So he got experience at least interviewing to be a head coach, and that's going to help him for this upcoming season. Now, it's crazy to think the trajectory of Ben because last year, or 2 years ago, Anthony Lynn was the OC. Everybody was like, okay, we'll see what Anthony Lynn does. And then halfway in the season, not even, he was relieved of his duties. And then you heard some noise about some guy named Ben Johnson, who was the pass game coordinator, and that's when Amon-Ra St. Brown took off. Now, the big question was among Lions fans, and now everybody likes to say, well, Jeff, that was obvious. Ben Johnson was going to be the OC. No, he wasn't. There was Deuce Staley was in that conversation. There was also another conversation about should we look outside the organization. Matt Nagy was a big one, which, not a huge fan of that conversation. No one really was in Detroit. But regardless, there was these conversations. It wasn't like, okay, obviously it's Ben. It was never like that. I was doing shows at the time. I know for a fact it wasn't like that. But now you look back, Dan made the right decision. And this is a credit to Dan. Dan's consistently made the right coaching decisions, at least for his staff. If he doesn't, he corrects it. Aubrey Pleasant didn't work out, fired him. Like he makes these decisions very quickly. He moves on, he pivots, and he finds the right guy. And I'm happy Ben Johnson's here with Detroit. And I think Jared Goff is too.
100%. And I am really, really glad that this list acknowledged Ben Johnson as the #1 offensive coordinator, at least coming into next year. I was personally, and I've said this before, I was shocked that he didn't actually take or get a head coaching job because I thought it was almost inevitable that he was going to leave. And you kind of mentioned the leap that the team took, the offense took, Jared Goff took, Amon-Ra St. Brown took, pretty much as soon as Ben Johnson was elevated to passing game coordinator in 2021. And piggybacking off of that, Jeff, I want to take you back to a very, very dark day in the history of Detroit, a game that you were at, Thanksgiving 2021, when the Lions lost at home to the Chicago Bears 16-14, in a large part because of Dan Campbell's mismanagement of the clock to end the game, and the fact that they only scored 14 points, which is unacceptable. At the time, the Detroit Lions were 0-10-1. The Lions offense was averaging, this is 2021 through the first 11 games, a paltry 15.8 points per game, that's an 0-17 level offense right there. Jared Goff in 10 starts did not look so good through 10 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. I would say not great. And during Amon-Ra St. Brown's first 10 games, 39 receptions, 352 yards, 0 touchdowns. To me, that sounds like somewhat solid for a rookie. Nothing special in any way, shape, or form. But
especially for a 4th-round pick.
Absolutely. And I know Ben Johnson, he was technically elevated a couple games before, but look at the last 6 games. The Lions go from 0-10-1 in their first 11 to 3-3 in their last 6, which is a drastic improvement. The offense goes from averaging 15.8 points per game to 25.2 in the last 6. An enormous improvement, almost 10 points. Absolutely. Jared Goff in his last 4 starts, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions after having 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in his first 10 starts. Massive improvement. And nobody quite glowed up in those last 6 games quite like Amon-Ra St. Brown. In the first 10 games, as I already mentioned, 39 receptions, 352 yards, 0 touchdowns. In the last 6, 51 receptions,
going
560
crazy.
yards, 5 touchdowns. That is some 2021 Cooper Cup level numbers right there, at least for a 6-game sample size, or a little bit of a facsimile of it anyway. And that just propelled this team in 2022 to have a top 5 scoring offense, for Jared Goff to have the best season of his career, for Amon-Ra St. Brown to have that coveted 100 reception, 1,000 yards season. That absolutely unbelievable. And one of the reasons that I think is slept on, that Ben Johnson should get so much credit, this team doesn't have a Patrick Mahomes. There's no Joe Burrow. There's no Josh Allen. There's no Travis Kelce. There's no Jamar Chase. There's no Stephon Diggs. They've never had really an elite running back. They don't have a Nick Chubb, a Derrick Henry, a Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, anyone like that. They do have a very, very good offensive line, but at the same time, they don't have really stars anywhere. Amon-Ra St. Brown is emerging into one, but nobody would put him as a top 5 receiver or anything. So what Ben Johnson has done with this team, helping elevate them from the doldrums of a winless season, a potential winless season. They were staring down the barrel of a winless season. Ben Johnson cannot get enough credit. He has been one of the greatest assistant coaches, if not the greatest assistant coach in Lions history, certainly of my lifetime.
And it's crazy because I feel like over time now with Dan as the head coach, we've been seeing a lot of this is the best this in my lifetime.
Yeah.
It's been, this is the most excited I've been in my lifetime. This is the best probably assistant you've had in your lifetime. This is the best GM and Brad Holmes you've had in your lifetime. A lot of new things are happening for Lions fans. And I think what separates Ben from other guys is, although, yes, up top in the brain, super smart, and what he's been doing statistically with the offense. But more than that, his relationships. The guy in his relationship with Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Jared Goff, with Brock Wright, because he was a tight ends coach before he was an OC. And he's coached pretty much every position on offense. He's coached wide receivers, he's coached tight ends, he's coached quarterbacks. And for him now to be the OC, it's perfectly fitting, well-deserved, and he's going to get a head coaching job, well-deserved. Although I'll be sad, I'll be happy for him because he deserves it. He really does. Now, the other part about this is it this year? Is he as good as gone? And who's waiting in the ranks? And I've been pretty consistent with this. I think who should replace Ben is Tanner Ekstrand, who's the passing game coordinator now. And you have to look at the patterns in which these guys get promoted. That's what I pay attention to. Ben Johnson, pass game. He was tight ends coach, pass game coordinator, OC. Tanner Ekstrand, tight ends coach, pass game coordinator, OC. I'm telling you. And he's going to be the next guy next season to be the OC for the Detroit Lions. I'm calling it right now. But Ben Johnson, Lucas, the things he's done in Detroit has been historic. And he's pretty much good as gone this upcoming season, I think.
Yeah. Ben Johnson is a wizard. I was surprised he came back this year. I think we both were in agreement that he was going to LA. I thought he was going to the Chargers for sure with Justin Herbert. They brought in the horse, Kellen Moore. Dude looks exactly like a donkey, but he knows ball. I'm a big Kellen Moore guy, but that dude is hideous. But yeah, he's good as gone. I'm trying to think of the situations around the league, maybe Washington, but they just got Bieniemy, so I don't think they're he's going to go somewhere. I couldn't tell you exactly where, but by far the best offensive coordinator in the league. And I love what Flannel said about not only the quarterbacks around him, around the league that he does not have, but the receivers too, because we love Amon-Ra St. Brown. But when you talk about offensive coordinators, you look at the guys who you have like the Jalen Waddles, the Tyreek Hills, the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, all those top-tier guys have top-tier talent around them. Not saying the Lions aren't talented, but it's a completely different tier compared to the other coordinators around them.
Yeah, it's different, and that's why, like for Shane Steichen, Ben Johnson, Shane Steichen's a great OC, and will be, I think, a really good head coach. But situation matters, dude. Like, it does, and I think Ben, with what he's had to work with, it's even more impressive. But to Matt and Gabby, you guys are around the team. Gabby, I'll start with you. People say, I don't think Ben will leave until the Lions accomplish a Super Bowl or a playoff win. To me, I don't think it matters. I think after this season, he's going to be so sought after, he has to leave, and rightfully so, to get a job.
I think everyone thought he was going to leave this year, even Brad Holmes, because you saw in his interview with Peter Schrager, that came out, 2 days ago now? He said, we're really lucky that he came back. We're really lucky that he came back, and now we have this opportunity this next year, and he's going to have another year with Jared Goff, but we're really lucky. So I think there was a lot of worry internally that he wasn't going to return, but they kind of all expected it because of how much he grew in such a short period of time.
And you can't deny that guaranteed money, Matt. If you're a head coach, the amount of money, even if he gets fired, and he can always come back, you can't turn it down. If he's offered a head coaching gig and it is attractive, it's an attractive gig. Like let's say the Chargers fire Brandon Staley.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
He's out of here.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and he's openly said it. I mean, his end game is to be a head coach. So, regardless of the storylines that we can build, we want him to stay. Give us that hometown love to stay for another year. It's not going to happen. He's going to get a bag. So, it's going to be sad to move on. But fortunately, with the Lions, as sometimes it hurts Lions fans.
Lions fans.
There we go. Sometimes it hurts Lions fans, but they groom these coaches to take that next step, to take a forward move in their career, which in turn we'll end up losing some of the good ones, but it is bringing the best out of that coaching staff when they know they're around a guy like Dan Campbell in a front office that has that in mind. So it's gonna suck losing him, but man, we're going to have a good year with BJ today.
All right. Let's chill referring to that.
Broder. You know what? No, he is right. He is right.
I don't know how to come back from that
one. Guys.
Hey, the Lions are lucky to have BJ.
Guys, what are factually Ben Johnson's initials? Broder, I know what you're talking
Thank
about.
you,
All these
man.
people are out here with their minds in the gutter. I mean, Ben Johnson can't change those initials.
Well,
just saying.
You know what initials I love almost as much as BJ for Ben Johnson? It's PF for Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness, of course.
That was smooth.
That was very, very smooth. I got to give you credit for that, Jeff. I am Frady, but I also have to give credit, of course, to Planet Fitness for having me looking like this, you know?
Yeah.
Flex Friday! Yeah. You know,